JavaScript is a computer programming language that we use to enhance the behavior of a web page. It's an interpreted language, and what that means is as your web browser hits the JavaScript source code, it compiles and runs that lines of code dynamically, or as you're actually browsing the page. And the way that we do JavaScript is you put JavaScript programming statements within what we call an HTML script tag. When your browser finds those script tags, it then executes the code. Now, one way it won't execute it immediately is if you put that code within something we call a function. And then in order to execute code within a function, you have to actually call that function. Similar to writing code and putting it inside of a method. You have to call that method in order to execute it. The basics of JavaScript came about from a language that was first known as LiveScript. And that was quite a while ago. That was probably the mid-90s, created by a company that was working with a browser called Netscape. And since then, they've had different standards come along and help refine it to be the language it is today. JavaScript is a client-side language, meaning that it's going to reside on your browser. Server-side says the product or the language or the program resides on the actual network server, and the client means your computer. So our JavaScript that we put out there for web pages actually runs on your browser on your computer rather than on somebody's server in some big office somewhere. In order to run JavaScript, we put it into a web page. And the advantages of using Java is that we're going to have less server interaction because we're sending this work to do on your computer versus having the server do it. Also, it allows us to increase the activity between the user and the actual web page. It makes it look nicer, it's a nicer interface, and just allows us to enhance the experience the user is having. Now, there are some limitations in JavaScript, and for the most part, though, there are going to be limitations you probably aren't going to worry too much about. One thing is that it doesn't allow what we call multi-threading or multiprocessor. For the most part on our web browsing, we're not going to really worry about that. The key of using JavaScript, though, is to make the user experience more pleasant and give the developer more control over how the web page interacts with the end user. Now, we're just going to use a text editor to write our JavaScript program, and you can use, there's many ones that are out there, but you can use Sublime, you can use Atom, you can use brackets, a bunch of different ones, and I would say you just sort of figure out which is the one that you like, and that's the one that you stick with and that you learn. So let's go ahead and start that. I opened up a brand new file in Sublime, and I'm just going to come in here, and the first thing that I want to do is create an HTML5 file. So I'm going to go ahead and first let my browser know that this is an HTML5 file by putting my doc type tag in, and then I'm going to go ahead and specify that I'm using an HTML file, and notice I'm having to type my begin and end tags, and I'll try to show you a shortcut later on in other videos. Now, within our HTML document, we have a head section, and I'll put my opening and closing tags for my head section, and we have a body section. So we've divided that into two different sections. Within our head section, usually that's where we find things like the title. And I'll just put I am the title of the web page, and I'll close off that tag. And then, oh, I got a typo down there, I need to fix that on the body. And so there's my basic structure of a web page. In fact, I could come in here and just type anything. Hello world, just the standard hello world. If I save that, and we'll do a save as, and I'll go ahead and give it a test. We'll call it test.html, and I had one there, but I'll just replace it. And then I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to open my browser, and I'll bring my browser over there and show you what it looks like. I've got multiple screens, and so my browser shows in different places. And so there is the actual hello world, and there's my title right there of my tab sheet, and it seems to work just fine. So I'm going to pull that back out of that window and close that down. Now let's see what happens if we go ahead and put some JavaScript in there. I'm just going to come into here, and in the hello world I'm going to type alert hello world. Now notice that I'm putting my JavaScript right inside of the body, and I'm just going to save that and we're just going to go ahead and browse that one more time and bring it over here, and notice it just displays it as text. Now the reason it's just displaying that as text is because you have to put JavaScript inside of a script tag if you want it to run. So I would have to come here and say script and then close off my script. So notice that my Java code goes inside of an opening script and a closing script. Also notice in Sublime, once I save my file with the file extension of HTML, it now knows what type of file I'm working with. Let me save that. I'm going to browse one more time, right mouse click, choose open browser, and in order to actually run this, I'm going to pull my window back over here and do an open browser, and notice there's the alert box, and it also prints off the text hello world. Now that's because here's my text in the window, and here's the JavaScript that executed. Let's cut this JavaScript, and I'm going to put it in the head section now. Last time it was in the body. Let's go ahead and save that, and let's run it one more time. Notice this time it displayed the alert box, but it hasn't displayed any text here. I'll click OK. Now it displays the text. The reason that's happening is because Java will execute JavaScript as it finds it within the file sequentially. In other words, when it first finds it, it executes it. When I had it in the body, it first displayed the phrase hello world and then displayed the script with the alert hello world. Putting it up in the head, it does the title, it then runs the JavaScript code and waits for you to interact with it, and then continues on by doing hello world. So that's the basics of a JavaScript alert box, and how do we use JavaScript within an HTML file. The one other thing I'd like to show you is if instead of just saying this is JavaScript and having JavaScript code, is what if we made this into what we call a function? Would it automatically execute? So remember, when I just had the script statement in there, whether it was in the head or the body, that JavaScript code automatically executed. So if I instead wrote a JavaScript function, if I save that and opened in the browser, notice it doesn't automatically execute. The way I would call that is by coming down into the body, typing in my opening script tag and my closing script tag, and then within that script tag actually type in the name of the function, parentheses, and a semicolon. So if I now save that and open that in the browser, it now executes my code. So that's a way that you can actually write the basics of JavaScript within an HTML file and allow your user to have a greater experience with your web page and control the behavior of how the web page works. As a review then, what you've learned is that JavaScript controls behavior of a web page. JavaScript goes inside of script tags, a beginning and closing script tag. You can put those script tags in the head section or the body. It executes Java code sequentially. In other words, as it finds it in your program, it executes it. But if you write Java code inside of a function, it doesn't automatically execute that code until you actually call that.